Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very thought-provoking show coming right up with special guest Brendan Kiely, and he's here to talk to us about his new book, Tradition. Now, Brendan is a New York Times best-selling author of All American Boys, The Last True Love Story, and The Gospel of Winter. His book has been published in 10 languages, and he has received the Coretta Scott King Author Honor Award, the Walter Dean Myers Award, and the Amelia Elizabeth Walden Award. He's been twice awarded Best Fiction for Young Adults by the American Library Association and was a Kirkus Review Best Books of 2014. So let's welcome to the show, Brendan.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
And what a pleasure it is to have you here. And gosh, so your new book is like flying off the shelves. Everyone has to have a copy. I was so excited to hear about it. I couldn't wait to get you on the show to talk about it. And my goodness, you must be so excited.
I am. I'm thrilled. Novels are a long time in the coming, so it's nice for that reality to be here. And this is a book that I care deeply about, so I'm very eager to share it with folks and to get conversations going about this book.
Well, and so why don't you share with us, for our listeners that are new to you, why don't you share with us a little bit about how you even got started on your writing path?
Absolutely, no problem. So I'm one of those folks who I think always was a writer somewhere deep down inside. I used to joke with people that you don't have to be published to be a writer. You know, if you're writing, you're a writer. And and it was always something that was a part of my life. It was something I did as a high school student, journaling in a notebook and writing poems about people I had crushes on and why didn't they like me and all of those important things that I think you go through. But it was later in life when I was an adult and I was working as a professional in New York City that I realized that that instinct to have writing as a way to address the deepest questions I had within me, that I started taking that seriously. And I realized that not only was it something that I wanted to do for myself to help me understand the world, but it was something I wanted to do to try to become a professional writer. And so for me, what that meant was getting up at 5 a.m. every morning and working on what soon became my first novel, but it took me 7 years. I wrote from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., and then I ran off to the high school where I worked, and I did my various tasks there, including teaching 10th grade English, until finally I got the break that I'd been looking for all those years. And my agent was kind enough to say, let's do this.
Well, and how exciting for your students during the time that you're doing this writing. They're like, hey, that's my teacher. Look at him. Because your books have had such great acclaim.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And I have to say the moment where I first felt like a professional, it really was when I was with my students, because I used to teach a particular style and model for active reading for all 10th grade students. And one day when I was presenting my first novel, The Gospel of Winter, to a large crowd, I looked out and I saw one of my former 10th grade students holding my book with the color-coded tabs that we had used in 10th grade English, active reading, and I melted on the spot saying, oh my gosh, my novel's a real book.
And to see your students use it in that way, gosh, that must have, like you were saying, it was really, it must have been such a heartfelt moment.
It was. It's pretty special. And I've always loved literature, and that's the thing, is that, one of my early reading memories is of my mother and I curled up on the couch reading aloud to each other The Hobbit. And so for me, literature has always been this kind of cozy getaway, and also again a space in which I can reflect on the world without having to be in it and be burdened by it in the moment, but a sort of retreat from the world where I can process it. And literature's always been that for me. So for it to then become something that I'm doing and providing for others, I mean, I feel so grateful and completely humbled that this is now what I get to do for others.
Mm. Well, we're so glad that you are doing what you're passionate about, because obviously everyone loves your writings. If people look at not just Gospel of Winter, but the praise that you've received for your other books, I mean, you have certain accolades that other writers dream to have. I think some would even sell their family to get it.
Well, I hope they don't do that. But I agree. I feel very fortunate. There are some moments. My second novel, All American Boys, has received some pretty remarkable awards. One of which is a Coretta Scott King Author Honor Award, which was a stunning moment of my life, to be on stage and to give a speech about what it means to receive an award in the name of Coretta Scott King, and that's just, it's unbelievable to be writing work and to be producing work that people respond to. It's that same book that also provided a moment. So I co-wrote that book with Jason Reynolds, who's another spectacular writer that everybody should know about and read. But the real crowning achievement was we won an award called the Walter Award, which is an award given by the organization We Need Diverse Books. And we were the inaugural award. The second year, the award went to Congressman John Lewis for his trilogy graphic novel March, and to be on stage and to pass the award to Congressman John Lewis, I mean, as I'm mentioning this to you right now, goosebumps are scattering across my skin, because I don't know if there'll be a more amazing moment than that, the idea that I had the opportunity to give one of America's most important heroes an award. That's just stunning.
Wow. What an amazing adventure you've been on. And so this kind of leads me to your next book, your most recent one, the one we're here to talk about today, Tradition. How did this start coming up as, gosh, I need to look into this, I need to do research, or this is a book I've got to write?
No, absolutely. So a number of years ago, I asked myself a question, and this is how I start all of my work. I always begin with a question. And the question in this instance, as I was just looking around at the culture and thinking about, what do I really want to write about? What do I want to respond to? And the question that really struck me was, how should we better listen to and support women, especially all those who are speaking up about misogyny and harassment and abuse, and in particular, how can men be better feminists? And this was something that was really deeply bothering me, because as I looked around our culture, it felt like you could see misogyny creeping in and corroding so many institutions. And in particular, I started working on this book in 2015. And I remember the moment when Emma Salkowitz graduated from Columbia University in 2015. And she, if you may remember, was the incredibly brave young woman who, in an act of protest, dragged her mattress across Columbia University's campus because she had been sexually assaulted, but the university didn't really want to help her. They didn't want to support her in the way that she was asking for support. They didn't even want to acknowledge that it had happened. And so she dragged her mattress across campus from class to class. But in 2015, she dragged her mattress onto the stage for graduation. And the president of Columbia University would not shake her hand. And in my mind, I felt like this is something I want to write about. I want to write about the strong women who are standing up and speaking out, and how we as a society need to do a better job to stand with them, to listen to them, and to believe them, and ask ourselves, what are we doing wrong that we're not supporting them in the first place? And it was shortly after that the second piece of inspiration hit me, and that was shortly after Donald Trump made his remarks that were spread far and wide when we saw the Hollywood Access tape, his incredibly disparaging and violent behavior, attitude, and language towards women. I saw a photograph online, and Donald Trump had excused it by saying, oh, that's just locker room talk. But the photo I saw online was a boys' football team in Portland, Oregon, all wearing wild feminist T-shirts, and the caption, the line below the photo said, "Not in our locker room." And I thought, this is what the book is. It's two voices. It's a voice of a strong young woman who's standing up and asking us to address misogyny, and it's about the young men who choose to listen and say, we'll stand with you. How can we be better feminists? How can we be better allies? How can we, at the most basic level, be better friends? And so Tradition, my new novel, is a novel told in two voices. Two teens, one young woman and one young man, and how their friendship becomes an authentic springboard on which they can address the problems of misogyny in their institution.
Well, and I just love how you're approaching both of these viewpoints, because they're both very valid, and it's something that we need to look at from a society standpoint, as whether or not we're going to address these in a different manner, it's interesting because a lot of colleges, they look at kind of minimizing their liability as opposed to addressing these things that happen on their campus.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think it's essential. I speak with friends who have children who are going off to college right now, and I applaud the work that many institutions are doing in their orientations, where they're saying to young women, here are ways to protect yourself. But I think we have to be equally vigilant to speak with young men to say, this is what you need to do to not set up a scenario in which people feel endangered, or this is how you need to behave so that you're not the predator, or this is how to begin to be a real ally and not just allow moments to pass without reflection. Meaning, if I'm a guy and I'm in the locker room and I'm hearing all of these jokes, I think it's my responsibility to stand up and say, hey guys, no more of this. Or if I'm a guy and I'm at a party and I see that a man is behaving in a way with a woman that seems inappropriate, it's my job to stick around and bear witness and see if there's a reason for me to stay there and not turn a blind eye. And so I really do appreciate this is a cultural question that doesn't just remain in boarding schools or in colleges, but truthfully, this is a question I think that we should be addressing in every institution in America, whether you're a young person or you're an adult.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Brendan Kiely in regards to his new book, Tradition. We'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special. When you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed, and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 123 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
There are nearly 2 million Americans living with amputation. Many live right here in San Antonio. Becoming an amputee can be scary, frustrating, isolating, but there's no reason to feel alone. The San Antonio Amputee Foundation is here to help support you and guide you toward resources such as home and car modifications and even prosthetic limbs. For more information or to make a donation, visit saamputee.org. We'll help you live a full, active life, one step at a time. San Antonio Amputee Foundation, healing limbs, hearts, and souls.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We've been speaking with New York Times best-selling author Brendan Kiely in regards to his new book, Tradition. So, Brendan, I've got a question for you.
Do you feel that it's better to call people out on their bad behavior in public or on a one-on-one basis?
This is a great question. I think it's essential. There are moments where we obviously need to call people out. I think there are instances where, especially because often you hear people who are in some way survivors of, or they are the folks who have been burdened by the abusive behavior or the harassment or whatever it is, and we need a space in which people can speak up and say, you did this to me and the world needs to know. I think it's equally important and sometimes more important for others of us to try to find ways to call people in, so to speak. And so as somebody who cannot say the phrase Me Too, because that's not my story to tell, what I can do, I think, is begin to reach out to men in particular who haven't been listening and instead find ways to say, hey, guys, I know in the past we've excused this by saying it's just a joke, but maybe, let's think about how we might feel if we were the end of that joke all the time. And I know you're just making comments in the break room, et cetera, but maybe we shouldn't make those comments anymore. In a way, to try to address people by calling them in, I think creates an opportunity to not put them on the defensive and instead create an opportunity to kind of build a bigger network of people who are supporting the very folks who then are given access to say, I'm calling you out because you did this to me. In order for me to help build a network, I think I need to do the job of calling other people in.
Yeah, because I think from any perspective, calling somebody out, you never know how things are going to materialize. And so you kind of want to go for the best outcome possible instead of one that's defensive and possibly, problematic.
Yeah.
So,
I think I agree, because I think my end goal is to find ways to help a conversation about empathy grow. And in order for that to happen, I have to start that train. I can't, for me at least, I can't start with accusations and vitriol. I have to also start from a place of empathy.
Yeah. We never know where the other person's coming from, regardless what the behavior is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly.
So take that in thought. What are some of the things that you've seen since your book's been released? Some of the feedback that you've been getting just from the community at large, because I know that it's profound. I'm just curious as the author how people are reaching out to you about that.
I feel incredibly grateful, and I have to say that. With my second book, All American Boys, there was a tremendous amount of feedback from communities of color who were speaking about why that book spoke to them and why it was important for there to be books out there that exposed institutional racism. And I also got a lot of feedback from white folks who were saying, I never really truthfully thought about my place in this in the same way that the characters in this book are. And while I always knew that racism was a problem, I didn't maybe consider the role in which I play in either perpetuating that unwillingly or the role that I can play to help do more to undo some of that in my own community. And I'm incredibly grateful that to begin to receive some feedback about the new novel tradition that likewise begins to in many ways it's a text that says to many women, I'm listening, I believe you, and I want you to know that I'm here in support. And I'm grateful that many women have started writing to me to say, we appreciate this novel because it really exposes in many ways or pulls back the curtain on where toxic masculinity comes from. And sometimes people think that's a buzzword, but I don't think it is. I think it's a real thing we can look at. I think it's boys feel an enormous amount of pressure from other boys and are taught in certain ways to behave in ways that eventually can become quite negative for women. And so I've been grateful to hear feedback from in particular many women about how this novel draws that curtain back and says this is where toxic masculinity comes from. We can point to the monsters that are in the press right now, but before we even get there, why don't we address the road that enables them? And if we can do that in the novel, which I think is a great space to ask large cultural questions, because it asks the reader to spend time, going back to that notion of empathy, to spend time with the characters as they grapple with these smaller moments, then let's get more novels out there that are asking us to address the big cultural questions.
Mm-hmm. And is that part of what you would want children nowadays to learn about the Me Too movement? Because it all is all intertwined.
Absolutely. And, that's a great question, because I think there are two ways of looking at it. So I write books that are sold and marketed as young adult novels, but I think they're as many young adult novels are read by adults. But it provides
kind of like The Hobbit, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like The Hobbit, or like The Fault in Our Stars, or novels that I think that are gripping for young folks and for adults. And I am so grateful that I get to spend so much time with so many teens because, I'm invited into schools to talk about how I wrote the book and why, and et cetera, et cetera. And so for me, I think a novel is a great way to spark a conversation about Me Too, because instead of talking about either what happened to me or my friend and who did that in my own community, instead I can talk about the characters, say the two narrators of tradition, Jules and Jamie Baxter, and what happened to them and why they reacted the way they reacted. So you can have a positive conversation, a healthy conversation about the Me Too movement by using the characters and creating a little bit of distance, but using that as a springboard to have a healthy conversation about your own community. However, I also think we adults can learn so much from this next generation. I think we've seen in the news recently the strength of leaders like Emma Gonzalez, who's asking us to wake up and be accountable to the conversation of gun control in a way that has been pretty profound. And I think young folks can teach us a lot about the Me Too movement. The number of feminist clubs that are in high schools that I've visited, the number of high school students who are asking us to think more critically about gender fluidity. This is a generation that has a potential to do tremendous good for our larger society. I believe in them, and I hope that we're all listening to them as much about Me Too as we are trying to teach them about it.
Well, and so this kind of leads me to my next question. I think I have enough time for one more here. So the men, there's a lot of kind of feedback where you get, and I've heard about this. Actually, there was a thing on one of the news networks not long ago that talked about this woman, and she was told that she shouldn't work at a certain place because of the men there. And so to kind of think about just the workplace environment, what would you say for men that no longer want to work with women for fear of how they can be, their actions might be misrepresented or taken?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important for us to remember, I would say to men who fear that there are so many women, there are so many people of color, there are so many folks who have been marginalized in our community in one way or another, who have had to adjust their lives for those of us who have taken our positions for granted for so long. And I don't think it's asking very much for those of us who have had those positions of comfort and privilege, and that we've taken them for granted for so long, for us to do a little bit of the adjusting. It doesn't seem like a big ask. And I think I would say to those men what I say to myself whenever I'm thinking about questions about privilege, about white privilege, about male privilege, is that I think the work always begins with the self. And as much as I want to try to create change in society for the better, I have to start by making changes within myself first. As I speak with young people and say, we want to speak truth to power, and I try to charge them up to do good in the world, I have to remind them and myself always that before I can speak truth to power, I have to speak truth to myself. And I would ask those men to take a moment of reflection and see if they can't do a little bit of the work within to create a space in which all people, and women in particular, feel safer, and instead of saying, well, I can't make any adjustments. Let's make the adjustments and make this a place where everybody feels safe to work.
Yeah. Things are changing, and it's changing for the better, and it's books like yours and writings like yours that really not only spark the conversation, but get the wheels of change moving so that we can look at what's happening and move beyond where we currently are to where we really want to be as a society.
Well, I appreciate that, and I really believe that literature can do that. They can add that positive push and catalyst to the conversation about how to make those changes in society. Because a book about two teens who are grappling with misogyny and how it affects their community is a book that I think is for all of us.
Oh, yes, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I've got my copy. I'm reading it and love it. And I highly suggest our listeners pick up their own copy of Tradition as well. Brendan, where can people connect with you and be part of your community and learn not just about this book, but all the other books you've written?
Absolutely. Thank you. The easiest way is to go to my website, www.brendankiely.com. That's BrendanKiely.com. And you can find me there. You can find me on Twitter @KileyBrendan. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. I'm all there. I'm everywhere. Please do reach out. I'd love to talk more.
Well, we'll definitely have you back. I'm thinking by the end of the year we'll have another discussion on this topic because this is a timeless piece of literary work, and so we'll have you back to talk again. But thank you so much, Brendan, for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun.
Well, this has been great fun, especially to talk about such an important topic, and I'm so glad that you're bringing this to the forefront. Again, if you'd like to connect with Brendan Kiely, you can at his website at brendankiely.com, where you can learn more about his book Tradition, which is available at all major retailers and on, of course, Barnes & Noble and Amazon. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary. A recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.